Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. It's only 2 days till the big man arrives, but that's a lie actually, because most pals absolutely battered Spurs at the Tottenham Stadium on Sunday. They broke records, they topped the league. Forget your slippers, forget your Lynx Africas. This was the perfect Christmas present for everyone. Here to join me as ever is the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And David, there is just nothing to be unhappy about, particularly right now. These Reds are unbelievable. They are destroying. I'm not saying this lightly because I think it is important to say these are the best team in the league, if not Europe, right now, aren't they?
Yeah, I just don't think there's any argument against that anymore. I mean, at what point, we're nearly halfway through the league season, so this idea they haven't played anyone yet has been firmly put to bed. They are comfortably top of the league, got a big lead there with the game in hand as well, the top of the Champions League as well. We've seen so many different sides to them in terms of types of performance they're able to put on, but they just win and win and win. And just the one defeat so far this season. It's if anyone is finding negatives in this, then I honestly don't know what you're in football for, because this is literally as good as it gets. There's not really anything to be concerned about. Liverpool are showing that they are the best team in Europe at the moment, and and they're in a really, really good position to go on and win the league. They look real contenders for the Champions League. They're in the semi-finals of the League Cup, the FA Cup to come. It's an unbelievably exciting time, I think, to be a Liverpool supporter, and yesterday was kind of more evidence of that, really, and more joy brought to fans.
Yeah, so much to like. The one thing I was going to ask you about this game as well, do you feel, because I've seen people use this sort of description, I kind of agree with it. It felt like yesterday was a statement performance. The rest of the league, the other contenders, they just took a big gulp, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I know, again, people will try and focus on the kind of, play things down a little bit and say, okay, well, it's only Tottenham and they had a few injuries at the back, which is, all that is true. But as much as they're kind of flimsy and they've struggled in games at times this season and lost some mad ones, they've only been beaten by a single goal. That's the biggest margin of defeat they've had up to yesterday. And Liverpool just absolutely wiped the floor with them. Tottenham have not been dominated in that way. And it wasn't just domination of kind of just scoring goals in the right moments and capitalising on the fact that the defence was a little bit makeshift. They just dominated them in midfield. They dominated them in defence. They dominated them in attack. They were just by far and away the better side. And I just think, if you're Chelsea, who did win at Spurs recently, but only 4-3 and made a bit, it was more of a game of it, really, wasn't it? Because Spurs got a couple of goals in front of them. Or your Arsenal, who only won 1-0 at Spurs earlier in the season. You're just looking at it and thinking, oh man, these are already miles ahead of us. They've got a huge gap in a game in hand. And look at the football that they play. Look how dominant they are. Look how they've got goals all over the pitch. They've got quality in defence. They've got quality in midfield, quality in attack. They just, it looks like the most complete team in the Premier League at the moment. And they're already streets ahead in terms of the points that they've accrued. So I just think you'd be very, very worried if you're a title rival watching them, really. And I do think yesterday was as you say, a statement performance that kind of sent out a message that, yes, we are the best team here, and we are going to kind of try and run away with this league, and yet more drop points from Chelsea, which makes it even sweeter. And these teams these title rivals cannot seemingly put together the run of wins that they need to close the gap. And the fact is, even if they do that at some point, they've then got to get ahead of Liverpool and beat Liverpool's form from that point onwards. So I'd say good luck to them doing that, because Liverpool just look like they're comfortably the best team in the division.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, look at that 4-point lead, people, with a game in hand as well. So there's so much to like there. And we should talk about it, because some people are going on about it. Arne Slot, and that is Arne Slot's job, to pick out the negatives or look where his team can improve. So just in case anyone has missed it, let's have a listen to what Arne Slot said afterwards about maybe a small switch off for a few seconds.
That's why I was quite happy with the fact that we scored the 3-1, then 4-1, 5-1, incredible display. But then you also saw that no matter how much quality players have, if they think they don't have to run anymore, and then in this league, especially against Tottenham, because they are so good with the ball as well, they immediately start to create, and that's what they did. And
I mean, being honest, David, it is Arne Slot's job to focus his players, make sure the standards don't drop, and we understand that completely. If anyone call that out, completely right to do that, the manager. Is the truth as simple as, though, the fact we were 5-1 up, we were absolutely cruising. They switched off probably for a few seconds because they thought the game is done, the game is buried. Tottenham got a few and they almost switched back on. That's when Diaz gets the sixth. And that's just the quality we have. But Diaz should chip the keeper, really. Szoboszlai goes round. I mean, 6-3 flatters, if anything. So I know Slot is saying that, and it's right to. But he won't be worried, really, will he?
No, I think he'll want to keep on at his players in terms of saying, you can't really afford to switch off. Maybe there'll be games where we're only kind of 3-1 up and we switch off, and then, then you'll cause trouble for yourselves. You can't stop running and do that. But the reality is it's not like we saw kind of, Liverpool are a chaotic team with defensive frailties. They just did switch off after going 5-1 up. They just thought this is too easy. And to be fair to Tottenham, it's one of the kind of the weaknesses and the strengths is that they don't really stop playing in that way consistently. So they're always going to be a threat across the 90 minutes. They don't kind of sit in ever and think, let's just keep this at 5-1. They're always going to throw men forward. So, and they have got quality at the top end of the pitch that can hurt you. So you have got to be kind of careful at all times against them. But the fact is, Tottenham don't get those other 2 goals if Liverpool aren't finding it as easy. In fact, they don't get all 3 goals if Liverpool aren't finding it as easy as they are finding it. The first one is a complete giveaway, really. And then the ones after that is from Liverpool, not really putting the work in. And also kind of Tottenham scoring from the 2 times they get the shots away in central areas in the box. That happens twice and they score twice from it. So again, that doesn't happen very often. So, it's a strange one, really. I don't take any real negatives away from that. And I know some supporters, judging by my mentions on Twitter, are absolutely desperate to suggest that this shows frailties, but I just don't believe it at all. I just thought Liverpool really did find it too easy at times, and it's good that the manager will be on at them about that and not allowing that to happen again. But it wasn't for me a concern coming away from the game because Liverpool were just utterly dominant, really, and just streets ahead of Tottenham.
Yeah, there was just, you could see almost a level between the 2 teams. There's no 2 ways about it. And I mean, despite all the brilliant performances on the pitch, one man showed, he is a level just above maybe everyone else in the world. I mean, Mo Salah, I don't know if people actually clocked this, broke 5 records yesterday. I mean, you can see what Diaz thinks of him as well, but he moved 4th on the all-time goal scorers. I mean, this isn't even the record, but just look how far he is ahead of everyone else in terms of goals and assists in the Premier League. The first player to get 10 goals and 10 assists before Christmas. The first players to do that for 6 seasons in a row. The first player to get a goal and assist in 6 games a season to break Wayne Rooney's record. And by doing it, he broke his own record to take it even further. I mean, we are probably not going to do just what Mo Salah is doing right now. It's just light years ahead of everything else in this league.
He's just the best player in the world at the moment, isn't he? I think we can probably say that with a lot of confidence at the moment. There's nobody performing at the level he is doing, and he's doing it in the toughest league in the world as well to do it. So, yeah, I think you're looking at kind of if he continues at this rate, or even if he just drops off slightly, I think you're looking at kind of the upcoming Ballon d'Or winner. That is the level that he's playing at. I just think there's nobody near him, and it's. Yeah, those records he's now starting to break. I mean, moving up to 4th in the all-time goal scorers list is outrageous. I mean, who saw that coming when he first joined? And let's be honest, he probably eyeing Gordon Hodgson there in 3rd place to leapfrog him before the end of the season, and you would expect him to do that. There's not very many goals there to get. So, I don't think you can pay him a bigger compliment than basically saying he is the best player in the world at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there is any doubt. And yet, he wasn't the only one that turned in a 10 out of 10 performance yesterday. Luis Diaz, it's been an interesting one for Diaz recently because a lot of the praise has been going to Gakpo, who's been on a good run of form. I think it was 7 goals in 10 games. Then people question it well since Diaz was scored, but he came back with a big bang yesterday. He was excellent in this one, wasn't he?
Yeah, really good. I mean, he plays that role so well as well, that kind of false nine in terms of picking pockets to get Liverpool up the pitch. He's such a good carrier of the ball. And so I think he really works when he's in that false nine, but he can also kind of run in behind. So it was the mix of the two that really confused Tottenham and made it so difficult for them. So yeah, really liked his performance. And I think we said on the last podcast that great to see Gakpo in this form because, Luis Diaz is kind of on a bit of a barren run in terms of goal scoring. Yeah. But I think we acknowledged when we were speaking about it that that's going to kind of ebb and flow, that you are going to see that, Diaz is going to come back into form at some points and Gakpo is going to drop off. And incidentally, I thought Gakpo was quite poor yesterday. Not to be too critical. I just didn't think he had his best game. So that's going to happen, though. I'm comfortable with that. The idea that Luis Diaz will come into form at some points and sometimes he'll drop off and Gakpo will, the only constant is going to be that Salah is going to be consistently scoring and assisting goals because he is a freak. Everybody else does have, peaks and troughs in terms of the performance level. And I thought Luis Diaz, really good to see him back on the goal, on the score sheet, took them well, could have had a hat trick in the end. And that's great that Liverpool have got these options and that they're all capable of chipping in at various moments.
It's weird. We almost mentioned it on the last pod in terms of simple maths, but it is simple maths. One Gakpo, plus one Diaz equals one Salah. That's the equation that we're looking for, aren't we? As long as those two's contributions match Mo Salah overall, that's all we're looking for, really, isn't it?
It's kind of basically as long as the both of them aren't out of form at the same time, then Liverpool will be absolutely fine. And you expect that that's how it's going to kind of work, is that they'll balance each other out. If sometimes they'll both be in form as well, I'm sure, and that because they're really high quality players. So yeah, as long as one of them is scoring, it's absolutely no problem for Liverpool, and you are then guaranteed to be getting goals from Salah. Hopefully, we can get some from Jota as well. Now he's back, so. And Nunez and Chiesa are more than capable of chipping in as well. So Liverpool have got really, really good attacking options. And, they named that front three yesterday and it was absolutely fantastic performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so many options, which we will talk about as well. And two players I do want to talk about with you. Dominic Szoboszlai and Trent Alexander-Arnold have come in for a bit of criticism recently. Szoboszlai especially has come in for quite a bit from a certain element of the fan base with a few questions. So let's just have a quick listen to what actually the manager said about him after the game.
I know, is that Dominic's best performance for Liverpool? It certainly looked like it for my part.
Of course, I haven't seen all of his performances because it's my first year and his second. I just referred to the Man United game. I think he was outstanding over there as well. If you score so many goals, that's always what stands out then. But last week, for example, against Fulham, if you look at the work rate he did over there. So it was a very good performance of him. But I think it wasn't his first great performance, but it was definitely one of his best.
I mean, he was brilliant against Fulham in a different way with 10 men covering almost every blade of grass, doing so much. Yesterday, though, did you think, David, he just kind of did it all? We saw him coming back. We saw him. We almost saw him at times playing almost like a Bobby Firmino role, didn't we? With the flick-ons, the link play, and a goal and assist. He was sensational, Szoboszlai, yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, actually. I wrote a piece recently on Substack comparing him to Firmino in the, I think kind of underrated for everything that he brings to the team. And he'll go on runs of goals and maybe got runs where he's not scoring so much, but he's still a brilliant player and really important to what this team does. And I thought yesterday, what was great about yesterday, and Firmino used to have these periodically, his performances where he shows both aspects simultaneously about why he's brilliant, which is the goal scoring, the assists, but also then the work rate and the knitting play and everything else he brings to the team. I thought it was his best Liverpool performance so far because he combined those elements so brilliantly. So many times where kind of little balls would get thrown up top, and he would turn it into something, chesting it off, or a little header or whatever. I mean, the goal he scores is kind of made from a bit of dirty possession, really, a big hoof up the pitch, and he flicks it on, and then he bursts in to finish it off really coolly. And just loved every aspect of his performance, because you always get that relentless work rate as well. So really, really good performance from him. And he's had some criticism recently, hasn't he? And for me, even when he was getting criticised, I still thought he was contributing to the team in a big way. In the winning run that they were on at the start of the season, he was still doing an awful lot of good things. And so, you kind of get responses now. Oh, well, now he is playing well. No, he was playing well at the start of the season, just in a kind of different way. And, we do want to see him get the goals and the assists, because we know he's capable. But he's not going to be doing that all the time, I don't think. He's going to be in little he'll go on little purple patches of getting those. But as long as he keeps doing what he does in terms of defensive contribution and covering the ground and the gaps and just knitting the play as he does, then you're absolutely delighted to have him in the team. And I thought he was phenomenal yesterday. And we are going to see more and more good performances from him, because he's still a young player who's kind of, he's still settling in. He's still, he's still getting there. This is only his second season in the Premier League, but we're starting to see the best of him now, and the manager's really getting the best out of him. So that's fantastic to see. But I've always really, really liked him as a player.
Yeah, so important to this team and this system as well at the same time. And it is fair to say that Fulham last game was not Trent Alexander-Arnold's best performance by any means. But in this one, I mean, the cross is worth a 10 out of 10 alone rating, but just his all-round defensive and his contribution around the pitch, he was almost back to Trent, wasn't he, yesterday?
Yeah, but I think we said after the Fulham game, didn't we, people need to calm down a little bit with some of the criticism and dragging the contract situation into it, just going over the top really about how poor he was. I mean, I didn't think he was very good against Fulham, and obviously Arne Slot acknowledged that as well. But, players are allowed to perform badly every so often. It will happen. And he was absolutely back to his best in this one. I mean, it's not just the cross, as you say. His passing was out of this world, spreading play, making Liverpool so dominant in possession. But the defensive side, I mean, he's up against Son down that flank. And Spurs did have all their best attackers on the pitch. And I thought he managed Son really, really well. A few where he nips in and wins the ball, a few where he just guides him inside, and Liverpool eventually get it. Yeah. Really, really good defensively. And, that's one side of his game that we've seen real improvement on this season. And I thought the stuff against Fulham where he was kind of asked to play two roles simultaneously, it was harsh on him. He got kind of isolated and left in some difficult positions quite a lot. So it was hard for him to play his best. But I think he showed today it's not an attitude issue. He plays in a kind of, a lax and relaxed way, doesn't he? Like his body language is like that. And yet he's winning the ball constantly yesterday. He's forcing his man inside defensively. So it's not, we shouldn't read too much into that. Just judge him on his actual performances. And I thought, the Fulham one, yes, not great, but he had been decent prior to that. And, he absolutely back to his best yesterday. He's a brilliant player. And let's not forget that when he occasionally drops a tricky performance where he's not at his best.
Yeah, no doubt about it at all. And I mean, those are the four that inevitably stole the show. And Sky gave it to Diaz as man of the match. I don't know how they didn't give it to Salah, but there was Salah, there was Diaz, Trent, Szoboszlai that we mentioned as well. There was others that performed well, and it seems strange saying when we concede 3 goals, but some defenders actually had good games at the same time, didn't they?
Yeah, I thought Joe Gomez and Virgil van Dijk were both very good in a side that concede 3, which is bizarre. I think Virgil van Dijk wins 9 out of 9 duels, which shows you just how kind of dominant he was in most of the game. And obviously, he'd be disappointed with the Solanke one that he doesn't get closer, but still thought he was absolutely brilliant. And Joe Gomez, talking about Trent's performance, what gave him so much license to kind of dominate that right-hand side and that kind of half space where he's in a semi-deep but pushed up position was because Joe Gomez just marshaled that area behind him brilliantly. And I just thought he was really, really good yesterday. Kind of a bit of an underrated performance from him, really. He just seems to win it every time it came near him. He was so composed, a few balls through the lines as well. And again, there's all this talk about defensive drop-off and Liverpool missing Canate, but I think Gomez is brilliant. I thought he was brilliant yesterday. And the fact Liverpool conceded 3 had nothing to do with him and Virgil van Dijk. And also maybe just a little bit of misfortune as well around them. So yeah, I thought they were both very, very good as well. And, credit to Andy Robertson as well, who someone told me before the match when he was in the team that it was a guaranteed disaster. And, I thought Robertson was pretty solid down that side as well. So, yeah, weirdly, the defenders played really well and Liverpool conceded 3.
Yeah, strange game for so many reasons, but so much to like. And I suppose the takeaway from this one for me when I looked at it is, and now you're even looking at the title race. I mean, we are now joint top scorers in the league with Chelsea as well. Is the biggest weapon for us in the title race just the fact there are so many goals in this team from the 6 forwards? Szoboszlai can chip in. McAllister, as he proves, can chip in yesterday. Even, Trent gets assists. The fullbacks do to make things happen. But there is just goal team that maybe the others don't have. Is that fair to say?
For me, actually, what kind of makes Liverpool the best team in this league is the fact that they are the most balanced. So they do have that attacking prowess, but they're also defensively solid. Again, we're saying this after a game in which they concede 3 and they've conceded 8 in the last 3. But I still believe this to be the case. I think there's a few mitigating circumstances in there. And the fact is, the XG numbers bear this out. So Liverpool are second for expected goals generated this season with 35.2. Chelsea are just ahead of them with 35.4. So very, very little in it. So Liverpool is second best attacking team. And Liverpool the second best defensive record with 16 expected goals conceded. Again, 0.2 behind Arsenal. So, you look at Chelsea's defensive record, it's shocking. I think they're kind of mid-table for expected goals against. You look at Arsenal's attacking record, they're about 6th, I think. So, you've got a very good defensive side and a very good attacking side, and Liverpool are just as good at both. And that, for me, is the thing that makes them the best team in the league, is they are so balanced in both aspects of the game. And so, if you are balanced, you're the most complete. That's how you generate the gap that Liverpool have got at the top, and that's why they've got that lead. They just are the best team in the league at the moment on the basis of the performances we've seen so far, and we're almost at the halfway point of the season. So, yeah, they're very, very good side.
Yeah, absolutely. And there isn't any real negatives. The only 2 things that came up in the press conference, and I know you were there, was that, and this is good, touch wood, we don't want this to change. The only 2 players we know are out right now, Ibu and Connor Bradley. It doesn't sound like they're a million miles away from what Honest Lot was saying, but they're not back in team training. He did confirm that. I mean, overall, and I'm touching wood and crossing fingers when saying this, the injury situation is good right now. And to get Konate back, that would be absolutely massive in the near future, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think the expectation is with Bradley around this hamstring injury, kind of you're looking at the other side of New Year, which was the expectation when he got it. So, that just is what it is. And again, I think Liverpool, they don't kind of need him until then. You got the games are quite nicely spaced out. So, you don't have to kind of worry too much about having your backup right back, although, you want him available as soon as possible. And with Konate, obviously, when he is fit and available, as well as Gomez has done, he will come straight back into the side. There's no question about that. So, and maybe we'll see him this side of New Year. Hopefully, we'll see how he gets on in terms of that. But let's hope so. But he doesn't seem a million miles away, as you say. So yeah, the injury picture is very much clearing up, and we're only maybe a couple of weeks away from hopefully having everybody available, which would be fantastic. So. Just more reason for kind of positivity. And I think Liverpool have done well to get through this period with the injuries they've had in the defensive part of the team. So if you can just get through these next couple of games now and get players back, then they're looking really good. And you worry is that kind of someone else will pick up an injury at some point. They won't have a fully fit squad. But if they can get a fully fit squad, I mean, that I don't think it happened at any point last season. So that would be a real boost.
Yeah, absolutely massive. We can get Ibu back soon. But yeah, touch wood, it just stays as it is, because it's no mean feat to only have 2 out at this stage of the season, especially when you look at the title rivals as well at the same time. And it is approaching January, so we're going to do it a bit different this time. I'm not going to just sort of bombard you with sort of the various things that come up that are rumours. There's only a few I wanted to pull out, because this is a rumour, and Fabrizio Romano mentioned Cherky. This name does keep coming up. I'm sure you've seen it, Fabrice Hawkins, various places. It does seem, for me, I'm going to be honest, the strangest move, and thinking another attacking midfielder, someone that can play out right? Is there any need? But this name does keep cropping up time and time again. Have you heard anything on the player at all?
Yeah, so I don't doubt that this is a player that Liverpool like, and I think that's why the link is there's something to it there. So I will say that I think you look at his profile, age-wise, he can score goals and he's a good creative player, and so Liverpool will have in the past kept tabs on him and probably still are at the moment. But I'd be absolutely amazed if they make a move in January. I mean, I spoke to someone at Liverpool about this and he said that they can't see it, especially in January. So I think there's way too much heat on this at the moment. I don't know why it's getting spoken about as if Liverpool are going to swoop in January. It would make absolutely no sense. Liverpool don't have the games for him. I mean, they've not had Chiesa all season and he has not touched the pitch and they haven't missed him at all. I mean, they could afford yesterday with everyone fit to leave him out, even though he would have been available for the bench if they'd have wanted him. So the idea they had another attacker in January or they even need one is just ridiculous, really. And I think people can rule that one out firmly. In terms of, in the summer, maybe, possibly someone they look at. Again, he's a player they kind of like, but, is that a need that they have? Who do they lose in attack? Who, is Salah still there? Is Nunez still there? All those kind of question marks. Does Diaz move on? What, all these kind of questions are up in the air, so maybe there would be something in it at that point, but I think I can fairly firmly rule out that they would move for him in January, and I think everyone can surely accept that. It would make very little sense to add him because there's no games for him really and they don't need him. That attacking midfield is stocked with Elliott and Szoboszlai, who are two really class options. The forward line, they just don't need a player of his profile. So yeah, I think I can categorically rule that one out for January. And I'd still say it's a leap that, Liverpool like a lot of players. So the fact that they like him does not necessarily mean that they'll move for him in the summer either.
Yeah, I suppose the word opportunistic came in because there's a lot of talk around Lyon's financial situation and whether he could be available dirt cheap. And there may be something to that, possibly might be an attractiveness for Liverpool. But yeah, it's near on impossible to see in January. I think everyone would be astonished if that happened. The contract one, rather than me put the question to you, I'm actually going to ask it a little bit differently because I don't know if you saw this at all, David. The two Jamies got into it a little bit, didn't they? Redknapp and Carragher on Sky afterwards about Trent's contract and Carragher talking about how local fans were seeing it. I don't think Redknapp quite got what he was going on about, but let's just play a bit of the clip for everyone just so they're aware of what was said.
You agree with it or not, to almost have a feeling of, hang on, we're winning we're going for the league, we're going for the Champions League, leaving on a free. What more do you want? Everything's here for you. So
I don't see it that way. I think that's...
What don't you say?
I can
guarantee you Liverpool supporters will think that. Now, whether
that's fine, but I don't think that should be the case because I think it's not, a couple of things in it. I think it's negligence from Liverpool that they've got them in this position. You shouldn't have three players of that quality to get to less than a year of a contract. So if you're going to do that, then you have to respect that he's going to have a decision to make. And if he's a young player that's given everything to the club, he's won the Champions League, he's won the Premier League, he's won every single trophy. If he wanted to go and try a different culture, do something different, go and play, if he wants to go to Man City or Man United, of course, that would, for me, you can't do that. Liverpool's my club, I was there 11 years. But if I was in that dressing room, I would turn around to him and go, I'd love you to sign, but you know what, good luck. If there's a chance to go to Real Madrid, how do you turn that down? And I think because he's a local lad, they shouldn't be put under that pressure. I think sensible Liverpool fans would say, you know what, you've given everything to this club. And in that period, they could have he saved them a fortune because they'd have had to buy 2 or 3 right-backs. Look what's happened to Manchester City. They've not had to buy a right-back in that time, and they've had Trent playing at such a high level, won everything. I don't see... If he wanted to go, he would... For me, he should go with everybody's blessing because he's been unbelievable for that football club.
And my point being, he won't go with everyone's blessing. Now, whether you agree with the supporters or not, when you're a local player... Now, if Salah or Van Dijk went for free, they'd actually be saying, oh, brilliant, you've been great for the club. And they actually cost the club money. Trent didn't cost the club money. He's only going to be leaving for what he cost, which was...
I mean, it goes on for a while and they get into it, but there's some quite distinct comments there from two well-known pundits. What are your thoughts on that exchange, shall we say?
It's tough because I kind of get both sides of it, really. I think they're both kind of right. And, I don't think we have to necessarily fall into the trap of thinking I have to have a kind of black or white opinion on this. I think there are grey areas there, and in that, you know, I kind of agree with Jamie that everyone will think, oh, thanks a lot, you're a local lad, you've left us for absolutely nothing after everything we've given you, and you know, how could you do that to us, particularly as the club's in such good nick, and we're going to go and challenge for loads of trophies in the near future. Why don't you want to be part of that? I totally get that. Why do you know? Why you're the lad who's living our dream on the pitch? Why don't you want to continue it? But equally, I understand what Redknapp is saying as well, in that, you know, it's Real Madrid, you know, an opportunity to go and live in Spain and learn the language and play in that incredible stadium and wear that famous shirt and experience something totally new with your life that Jude Bellingham is clearly enjoying out there. You know, that must be attractive. That would be attractive to me. It would be attractive to you if we were in that position. You know, it must be something you think about. You only get one life, and you only get one opportunity like that that comes up to you when you're coming up on a free coming into your peak years. It must be something that weighs on your mind. It must be something you'd like to try out. I know I would have loved to do that. You know, I spent a little while in Spain myself, and I loved the place, and you know, I love the language. I love everything about it. The food and the weather is much better. And I think Madrid is a fantastic city. And then you throw on top that you will get to play for Real Madrid, the most iconic, biggest football club in the world. You know, I think Jamie Redknapp's right. And you know, he probably does. He's got to a point where maybe he does have the right to try something new. He's won everything he can for Liverpool and been a big part of that. So I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, I guess. You know, I get both arguments, really. And I think it is a tough one. But one thing I would say is that at the moment, there's no suggestion that Trent is, you know, he is, as far as I understand it, giving him priority to Liverpool. He's still in those talks. He hasn't told Liverpool he wants to go to Madrid or anything like that. So those talks are ongoing. And I am still optimistic it'll get done. But as I say, honestly, I probably couldn't blame him if he went, because of how I feel about it personally and what I would think in that situation. And I would love him to stay, and I really hope he stays, and I'm still optimistic that he does stay. But as I say, I'm kind of sympathetic with both views there, that, you know, I understand why Liverpool fans will be disappointed, but what an unbelievable opportunity to do something incredible with your life, to go there and experience that. So, yeah, I kind of get it, really.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, and people will have a different opinion. Sexy Saturn AH saying Liverpool is the club to be at for now and the coming years. Kara is right. I get that to an essence, and this almost sounds strange, but don't ask me the exact year, but it was something like a maths class, and I was 14, 15. You were dreaming like you'd map out your perfect career, and I won everything at Liverpool for like 10 years, like 10 titles, 10 European Cups. And it was Barcelona for me on a free, you know, just for the new contract and that experience. So to actually live it out, I get that as well. I think you're a bit foolish if you don't understand the pull or the attraction, at least. I think that is obvious. No two ways about it. I suppose the other bit, because Carragher mentioned this in his Telegraph article, and it kind of came up as Sir Les Ferdinand was separating them in a mini brawl that was about to ensue. But he did say specifically, Carragher, in that article, the legacy impact will be there. There's a chance to either be remembered, and he said this yesterday, as a Steven Gerrard or more in the Steve McManaman column. I think I completely agree with that, and we understand that, don't we? It will affect the legacy if he does decide to move on. That's in the pros and cons.
Yeah, again, that is completely fair argument as well. And I don't think Steve McManaman is remembered as fondly as he could have been for a player who was from Kirkdale and was absolutely world class, one of the best players in the world in his position at the time. He isn't looked back on as fondly. And I guess, in fairness, for McManaman, it was an easier decision because Liverpool were not challenging for everything. They weren't arguably the best team in Europe at the moment he left. So for him, he probably should get more sympathy for doing that and going over there and winning La Liga, winning the Champions League. You know, he had a remarkable time out there. It was absolutely loved. So, you know, it was an easier call for him, and maybe he should. I think fans should sympathise with that a little bit more. But for Trent, it's kind of he's, you know, legacy wise, he's leaving something bigger behind in that he did win everything. He could probably win another of the big two this season if things continue as they are. So, you know, he's given so much there. If he goes, you know, should we be happy with that? Should we say, well, you know, fair enough, you're a big part of teams that won everything a couple of times. you go out there and enjoy yourself. Maybe we should be more sympathetic to that view as well. So I don't know. I kind of talking myself round. I'm just caught in the middle because I just see it from Trent's perspective in that I totally understand if he does want to go and try it, because I think you should broaden your horizons and you should try and learn new languages and go and experience new cultures if you can. It's been one of the most enriching experiences of my life to learn Spanish and to be able to do that. So I think I admire anyone who does that. So I don't know what I think is the answer. I really am caught in the middle. I wouldn't personally begrudge him if he went, but I really hope he stays. And I still think he'd leave with a better legacy than McManaman. Maybe he's not going to touch Gerrard if he does leave, but I still think he should be loved by Liverpool fans as a local lad who won everything with the club. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to think about this for another couple of hours and then get back to you.
I don't know if there's a career as a Spanish translator or a politician beckoning there. That was a talk, but I get what you mean. It is difficult to sort of rationalise all this together. We will see what unfolds, but moving ahead in the short term, I mean, as much as we're reliving and we've watched this concept about 86,000 times, Leicester round the corner at home on Boxing Day. Now, if we look at Leicester, honestly, David, I mean, they were absolutely horrendous yesterday against Wolves. They got absolutely battered. They're in horrendous form. It's not exactly like Van Nistelrooy's turned anything around. With that in mind, do you think there will be any rotation rest, or do you think it will be pretty much this team trotted out strongest, steamroller and move on again?
Yeah, I just don't see there's any kind of need at the moment for big rotation. The gaps between the games to Liverpool over this festive period are quite nice, really, aren't they? So is it, 4 days between Tottenham and Leicester, and then another 4 days between Leicester and West Ham, and then obviously then quite a big gap then to Manchester United. So they've fallen really quite nicely for Liverpool. And I just, for a team that's used to playing every 3 days to be playing every 4 days shouldn't be that big of an ask. And I also think, we saw a few early subs yesterday, didn't we? Players being protected in that way when Liverpool were comfortable. There's every chance that Liverpool can do similar in these games, because on paper they look like games that Liverpool should win fairly comfortably. I mean, look at the expected goals and the goals that West Ham and Leicester are conceding at the moment. Surely Liverpool are capable of getting themselves handy leads in these ones. And if you can kind of rest in those moments. So I don't think there's any real case for strong rotation over this festive period, because I don't think Liverpool need to, and they can keep that rhythm going, keep getting the wins, and as I say, maybe rest players when there's 20 minutes, 25 minutes remaining in a game.
Yeah. I even think whatever side Arne Slot picks, it should be enough to beat Leicester, if not steamroller them at full strength. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there is any. And then we all know the song Merry Christmas Everton. It's probably not along the lines we think when I'm asking this, but we can actually thank the Ev for a bit recently, because they took a point off Arsenal, and yesterday they held Chelsea to a goalless draw. I mean, the postponement against us is probably looking better and better, but the Ev have done us a favour this Christmas period, haven't they?
Yeah, Merseyside solidarity, and I think we should respect our blue brethren for that. They've done a fantastic job recently. It does, to your point there, it does show, doesn't it? That game in those conditions at Goodison would have been an absolute nightmare, really, particularly with Liverpool having a few defensive injuries. They were kind of a bit, up and down at that moment. They had a lot of fatigue off the back of a tough schedule. So that getting cancelled was no bad thing at all. And you just hope Liverpool are in decent shape when they play them, because I think that's going to be a really, really tough game. Everton are so solid defensively. So, yes, it's a tricky one. But, yeah, they've been handing out favours to Liverpool recently, holding Chelsea, holding Arsenal. And, yeah, that's been really, really handy, because, Liverpool, they've had that little wobble, haven't they, prior to yesterday. And I think it's now a case that Everton have helped them kind of get away with it. They've got that massive gap again now. And now's a period, I think, looking at the fixtures Liverpool have got coming up, to really put the foot down. And if there are any more drop points from Chelsea and Arsenal in this period, then you're starting to get to the point where you're thinking, is the title already kind of wrapped up at this early stage? So, thank you very much to Everton, I guess. And, yeah, I still think that one's going to be a tricky one, that game in hand, whenever it lands.
Yeah, even better knowing that the Blue Noses will not be enjoying one single second of this talk. But shout out to Brad there, listening while getting ready for work. Shout out to whoever's listening, whatever we're doing right now as well. And the final one for wider football, because I know you'll have been at the press conference on Friday, and Arne Slot was asked about when do you look at the table. Naturally, I think he's lying a bit. I'm not trying to be rude to the manager, but he's probably aware of the table. I know he said I only look at 19 games halfway because we've played everyone then. I mean, we're looking at this now. It makes for beautiful reading for us. I'm still struggling to see certain teams being up there, shall we say, come the end of the season. Who were you thinking? It's almost a two-part question, this. Who's your top four and who's our main competition now come from?
Yeah, so for top four, I think obviously Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, it's quite clear that they're going to get in there. I don't question that for a second. And I still think that fourth spot is ultimately going to end up going to Manchester City. I mean, you think how awful Liverpool were for periods in the season where they finished fifth, and City are going through similar thing here. But Liverpool did finish fifth, and they only narrowly missed out on finishing in that top four. They were quite unfortunate in the end because they got on a little run. So it just shows you, even though City are terrible at the moment, they're on a horrible losing run. I just think they've got enough to surely work it out enough to get them through and win a few games to get in that top four. It's, they only need kind of 70 points to probably get there. They are capable of getting there. I'm sure about it. So I think it would be silly at this point to kind of write them off. And particularly because the sides above them, Forest, surely they're going to have a dip at some point. Bournemouth are doing incredibly well and they are a great side. But again, sides that City will feel they can reel in and that aren't too far ahead of them.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about City struggling. They're only a point behind Bournemouth, who we're saying are unbelievable. So it's kind of, in Aston Villa, I think when they're managing the European stuff, that's difficult for them. So I still feel that City will be able to reel them in and maybe sneak into that top four before they get relegated to League Two. But it's that for me is what the top four is probably going to end up looking like, I think.
Competitors, because I think now, just in case anyone's any doubt, because I think there's still a few hanging on, we are 12 points ahead of City with a game in hand. I think we can finally, for the last hangers on, write off Manchester City, just in case anyone was uncertain. Chelsea, draw against Everton, might not be the worst point in the world. Arsenal, I mean, it looks like Saka has an injury, unfortunately, for them. I don't know why people are sort of cheering that. I don't think anyone was, particularly from Liverpool's perspective. So we'll see how long he's out. Is it Arsenal you think the main competition will still come from? Because I know you weren't sort of believing that Chelsea will stay up there. Is that still the team you're looking at?
Yeah, I just think Arsenal, they've just shown, haven't they? The form is not great, and they've dropped points in just about half of the games so far this season. But I still think, they're only a couple of points behind Chelsea. They've got a more recent history of putting together long winning runs in the Premier League. I still don't think it's going to be enough for Arsenal. I think they're too far behind Liverpool, but I still view them at the moment as the main competition. There's just a few questions for me around Chelsea's defensive record and the amount of expected goals they're conceding. That's probably going to hurt them at some point. So, I just think there's too many question marks over Chelsea. I think Arsenal will get closest. I'm still pretty confident that Liverpool will go on and win it, to be honest.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that, touch wood. But there is a lot to like there when we look at that table. We will see what happens with the round of fixtures this week. So the final one we had was mentioned on Discourse. It's a random question. I've not told David about it, so he's got no idea what's coming, but it does actually relate to Christmas and patch journos. So the question that came up on our Discord, David, which patch journo would you least like to draw in the Secret Santa and why?
Oh my God. Who would I least like to draw? Probably Joycey, because he's a mysterious character and I wouldn't have a clue what to get him. I mean, obviously known Joycey for years, but you only get to see it. It don't really he doesn't let you in. He doesn't let I don't have enough insights into Joycey and what I could get him. A few of the other lads who I know what I could maybe get, Doyley or Ghosty or James Pearce or anyone like that. But But yeah, he's a man of mystery, Joycey. So I think he'd be very, very hard to buy for. So maybe he's the one I'd least like to get.
I can understand that. We managed to tempt him onto Media Matters about a month ago or so, and people are asking me, like, what did you get from him? Loads. What did you learn from him? Absolutely nothing. Not one bit of insight or into the guy whatsoever, but loads of info and insight from
he just comes on his Twitter, doesn't he? Drops his news and then leaves, and that's what he's like in real life. You know, he just kind of, like I say, the man of mystery. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, there you go. That's a question for people. What would Paul Joyce get for Christmas? Hopefully 3 contract renewals under the tree, but we'll have to see on that. And there we are, people. The last Media Matters before Christmas. Whatever you get, whatever you don't get, whether it's a lump of coal, whether it's the gift you want, who really cares? Because the Reds will finish Christmas or be at top of the league and top of the Champions League as well. There is nothing not to like at the moment. And on that note, for the final time before Christmas, all it leaves me to say is, David, for the time, the answer and the insights, it is massively appreciated.
No, thanks for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.